Between 1405 and 1433 CE, a Chinese admiral named Zheng He spearheaded 7 remarkable voyages, unparalleled in history. Known as the Treasure Fleet, these expeditions reached Southeast Asia, India, sailed across the Indian Ocean to Arabia, and even touched the distant shores of East Africa. Zheng He commanded an impressive floating city with 28,000 men and over 300 vessels. Notably, 60 of these were colossal treasure ships, 9-masted giants stretching over 120 meters in length. Sponsored by the Yongle Emperor, the Treasure Fleet aimed to extend Ming China's influence abroad and establish a tributary system of vassal nations. Although successful, with over 30 countries nominally under China's control, political intrigues at the court and the looming Mongol threat to the northern border led to the downfall of the Treasure Fleet. Subsequently, the Ming emperors shifted their focus inward, closing China to the outside world and relinquishing control of the high seas to the European navies during the Age of Exploration. On July 11, 1405, following prayers to the sailor-protecting goddess Tianfei, Chinese Admiral Zheng He embarked on his inaugural voyage with the Treasure Fleet. The impressive armada boasted 317 ships, with 62 being colossal treasure ships, carrying almost 28,000 crew members. The first leg of their journey took them to Vietnam, recently annexed by the Ming Dynasty. From there, they sailed to Siam, present-day Thailand, Java, and eventually reached Malacca at the southern tip of the Malaysian peninsula. The local ruler swiftly submitted to Ming authority, making Malacca the main base for Zheng He's operations. This marked the start of Malacca's rise as a crucial port for trade between India and Southeast Asia. Continuing eastward from Malacca, the fleet crossed the Indian Ocean, reaching major trading hubs on the southwest coast of India, including Ceylon, present-day Sri Lanka, and Calicut. Zheng He's 300-vessel armada left a lasting impression on the locals, who acknowledged China's nominal control. They exchanged gifts, and ambassadors boarded the ships bound for China. On the return journey, laden with tribute and envoys, the Treasure Fleet confronted the infamous pirate Chen Zuyi in the Strait of Malacca. Zheng He's ships triumphed over the pirate armada, capturing Chen Zuyi, who was subsequently executed upon their return to China. Following the triumph over the pirate armada and the eradication of their base at Palembang, the security of the Malacca Strait and the vital trade routes connecting Southeast Asia and India was assured. This set the stage for Zheng He's second voyage in 1407, this time with a more modest fleet of 68 ships. Their destination was Calicut, where they attended the inauguration of the new king. On the return journey, the fleet made stops in Siam and the island of Java, where Zheng He found himself entangled in a power struggle between 2 rival rulers. Despite the primary diplomatic mission, Zheng He's massive ships, armed with heavy guns and soldiers, allowed him to navigate local politics. Upon the fleet's return to China in 1409, laden with tribute gifts and accompanied by new envoys, Zheng He wasted no time and set sail on another 2-year voyage. Similar to the previous expeditions, this one also concluded in Calicut. Zheng He once again employed gunboat diplomacy, intervening in Ceylon, where Ming troops defeated the locals, captured their king, and brought him back to China. Although the Yongle Emperor eventually released the captive and sent him home, China backed a different regime as a punitive measure. After a 2-year hiatus, in 1413, the Treasure Fleet embarked on another expedition. This time, Zheng He extended his reach beyond the Indian ports, guiding his armada of 63 ships to the Arabian Peninsula. The fleet reached Hormuz, a pivotal connection between the maritime and overland Silk Roads. Venturing further, the smaller fleet visited Aden, Muscat, and even entered the Red Sea. Given the predominantly Muslim lands they navigated, having specialists in Islamic religion on board was likely crucial. Once again, Zheng He found himself caught in a local conflict, this time in Samudera on the north coast of Sumatra. Ming forces, skilled in the art of war, triumphed over a usurper who had murdered the king. They brought the offender to China for execution. While the Ming had primarily focused on diplomatic efforts, when diplomacy faltered, they safeguarded their interests by deploying the formidable treasure fleet against potential troublemakers. In 1417, the treasure fleet embarked on its most extended voyage yet. After returning various foreign dignitaries to Southeast Asia, Zheng He crossed the Indian Ocean and reached the East African coast. The Armada visited significant ports, engaged in gift exchanges, and established diplomatic ties with local leaders. Among the numerous tribute items brought back to China were exotic animals like lions, leopards, ostriches, rhinoceroses, and giraffes, some of which were seen by the Chinese for the first time. The giraffe, in particular, captured their fascination, identified as a qilin, a legendary beast symbolizing virtue and prosperity in ancient Confucian texts. Despite the auspicious encounters, maintaining and sustaining the treasure fleet proved costly. Following Zheng He's return from the 6th expedition in 1422, which also included a visit to Africa, he learned of the death of his patron and childhood friend, the Yongle Emperor, who had passed away during a military campaign against the Mongols. The new Ming ruler, less inclined toward expensive distant voyages, faced the need to redirect funds for military efforts against the northern Mongol threat and the reconstruction and expansion of the Great Wall. Although Zheng He retained his position at court, his naval expeditions were put on hold for several years. The pause in naval expeditions was broken when the new emperor, the Xuande Emperor, succeeded his short-lived predecessor. Under the Xuande Emperor's adventurous leadership, Zheng He was given the opportunity to undertake one final grand voyage. Nearly a decade after his previous journey, a 59-year-old Zheng He, despite his frail health, was determined for what would ultimately be the treasure fleet's last voyage. In the winter of 1431, over 100 ships carrying more than 27,000 men set sail from China. Navigating the Indian Ocean, the fleet visited Arabia and East Africa. While the primary goal was to escort foreign envoys back to their homelands, the expedition also reinforced the tributary ties between Ming China and over 30 overseas nations. Tragically, on the return journey in 1433, Zheng He passed away and was laid to rest at sea. His death mirrored the destiny of the beloved treasure fleet. Besieged by an ongoing Mongol threat from the north and facing opposition from influential Confucian courtiers critical of what they deemed wasteful adventures, the emperor made the definitive decision to terminate naval expeditions. In a conclusive move, he ordered the dismantling of the once mighty treasure fleet. With the eunuch faction defeated, the Confucian elites sought to erase the memory of Zheng He and his voyages from Chinese history. This marked a pivotal moment as China transitioned into a new era by closing its doors to the outside world. In a twist of irony, just a few decades later, Europeans embarked on their own voyages, dominating the high seas and eventually establishing themselves as the superior maritime power. The conclusion of Zheng He's expeditions and the dismantling of the treasure fleet symbolized a turning point in China's history, foreshadowing the era of European exploration and the subsequent European influence in China.